Warning. Warning. The Freestyle Club contains adult language. It is intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. This is Freestyle Club with your hosts, the unknown admin, Rafael Reyes, and CPR, Jose Ortiz.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to this week's edition of the Freestyle Club. My name is CPR, Jose Ortiz, and I'm being joined by the unknown admin, Rafael Reyes.
What's good, you bastards?
This week, we're joined by two kings. We got the unknown admin, Rafael Reyes, and our special guest on the third chair, a good old friend of mine, the one and only Miguel Reyes Jr. Thank you for joining us on the Freestyle Club.
What's up, Freestyle players?
What have you been up to? We haven't heard from Miguel Reyes in a long time. What has been going on with Miguel Reyes over the years?
Just being a family man and, just taking care of business at home and, just taking care of the family, brother. Always keeping myself busy to make sure, maintain the roof over their head. You know what I'm saying? I
do. Can you still do the spin kick?
Yes, I can.
Just to elaborate, what is your degree in the martial arts?
I am a second degree black belt in the Japanese Okinawan system.
Imagine him and Noel doing a duet on stage and doing those kicks.
Yeah, I got my money on Miguel.
A lot of people are going to get hurt in the front row. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm not sure if you're aware, Miguel, but Noel, he's also a martial artist, and he throws kicks in the middle of his performance.
Well, no, I wouldn't do that in the middle of a performance. But hey, everybody has their own, has their own kick, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Subscribe to the Freestyle Club podcast, theunknownadmin.com, and cprsmusic.com.
In 1990, you were presented to the freestyle world with your group Full Afekt. Who were the members of the group Full Afekt?
It was Bobby Rodriguez and Robert Pacheco, a.k.a. Robbie Rocks.
Recently, you had a reunion. How was that?
Oh, that was awesome. Together as Full Afekt, I want to say it's been about 25 to 30 years on the same stage. The producer, the arranger. Now, my boy Robbie Rocks, he's still active. He does more like salsa, merengue stuff, but he DJs still. And whenever we can reunite it and share the stage, we'll make an effort to continue with the Full Afekt sound.
28 years where we were introduced to the group Full Afekt with Remember the Days. How was it recording a song like that back in the day? Because now it's so easy to record a song from having stuff at home, having your own studio. What was the process for you guys?
It was funny because a lot of people don't know. We probably have 4 or 5 official songs before Remember the Days. The guys Bobby and Rob, they were like DJs. They were like very well-known DJs in the local area in North Philly. So they started experimenting with doing the music. And it was a slow process, but we were able to develop the sound by, getting the advanced equipment at the time and, using the 808 bass kick and all that. And we, during the time we were experimenting. So we actually have 5 or 6 other tracks that we did prior to Remember the Days. What happened was we got so tired of working on the older stuff repetitively because we were constantly buying new updated equipment just to change the sound constantly. And we were big fans of Noel. So when we heard Noel stuff, if you remember the days, it kind of has that same Noel flow style. So I remember me and Bobby were just in the studio, just kind of browsing. He was just dropping beats and playing some stuff. And I'm like, hey, man, I like the way that sounds, man. I think I could write something to that. And that's how we created Remember the Days, through the influence of Noel.
The good thing about this song was that it was a sleeper hit. It was an independent record label, Afekt Records.
Yeah, that was our own label, right?
Don't leave me now, my love. It's the one that we've been through. We've been through worse of times and made our many dreams come true. Changes in my life, did I regret and can't accept? But I never meant for you to turn away from me. Don't leave me now.
In 1992, Full Afekt released Don't Leave Me Now and Out of My Mind. Could you speak to us a little bit about those two songs? because Don't Leave Me Now was a banger. It was a hard-hitting song with a great breakbeat, and then you flipped it on Out of My Mind, and it became a personal message. So talk about those two songs for me.
Don't Leave Me Now actually created our identity as Full Effect. If you listen to Remember the Days and Don't Leave Me Now, it's totally night and day. Don't Leave Me Now was a very, very well-produced, very well-written song. And what inspired Out of My Mind, we were able to use the same musical elements from Don't Leave Me Now. And my boy Robbie Rocks, there was a particular sound he wanted to use to add a song on the same single. So he's like, yo, Mike, man, can you come up with something with this, man? This has more of a darker, mysterious sound, you know what I'm saying? But I still want to keep the same musical elements of Don't Leave Me Now. Don't Leave Me Now, we co-wrote. Out of My Mind was my first official song that I wrote.
Out of My Mind had to do with the passing of someone. Was that someone personal to you? Did you dedicate that song to someone? Was that just you invoking a feeling that you wanted to express in song for someone who may have lost someone?
Right, exactly. You hit it right on the head. Yeah, I didn't lose anybody at that particular time when I wrote the song. When I heard the little musical part that Rob had done, I was like, wow, it kind of sounds dark, but at the same time deep. So I kind of just put myself in that thought as if I would have had lost somebody at that time, but I didn't. I mean, the song meant more to me years later. It means more to me now, but at the time, that's basically how I went about it.
I find it interesting that in 1992, when I first got the 12-inch record for Don't Leave Me Now and Out of My Mind, I had Remember the Days, but it took me to overplay Don't Leave Me Now and Out of My Mind to then go back and appreciate Remember the Days. It was kind of backwards, just like your story, where Out of My Mind was the first song you wrote and it was the second song to be released. And I just find it interesting that a lot of people that I know, especially in my area, we went backwards. In 1992, we were truly playing Don't Leave Me Now and Out of My Mind, and then we took a step back and said, oh, they have something else, and we've had this all along, but we're going to play this now. And we actually started playing all three songs back to back.
Nice. Yeah, totally different styles. Yeah, that's when when we were doing Don't Leave Me Now, that's when we had the best of what we had to create the best sound. All this was done in the basement. We used to go to a lot of the shows. We used to talk to a lot of road managers, and they would guide us to different stuff of what we needed to improve our sound. Because, we used to submit our stuff. We actually went to Micmac, Tommy Boy, but, nobody wanted to work with us. So we used to show our demos to a lot of the managers from the groups that used to come through. And they're like, hey, man, we like your sound, man. You guys should just do it on your own. You guys are there. If they don't want to pick you up, it's because they don't know you because you're not from around the way. You know what I'm saying? Or they don't want to take a chance on an outsider. But you guys have a pretty good sound, and I think you guys should just keep rehearsing it and, study it and do it on your own. And that's basically what we did.
Freestyle is pretty much regionalized. So we have New England, New York, the West Coast, the East Coast. What did Full Effect represent? Did you guys represent Philly?
Yeah, we represented North Philly. So basically, we used the combination of the South Jersey and North Philly combination. Me being the singer from South Jersey and the two producers and arrangers, being straight out of North Philly. So if you remember, that's why we added, if you hear Remember the Days, even Don't Leave Me Now, we added the bells. So the bells represent Philly. When it goes boom, 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 that was our identity. That was our, okay, boom. That's our grand point right there. That people will hear that. That's Philly right there.
Do you think that type of sound is needed today in 2018? Have you been keeping up with some of the sounds that people are using today in this era?
I've listened to some of the current stuff. I mean, okay, New York's always going to have their sound. California has their sound. Philly has their sound. Texas and certain areas that still play the music have their sound. I don't know if there's a particular sound that's going to, take it to the next level, if that's what we're talking about, that I'm hearing right now. I think if, not to try to go off course here, but I know there's a lot of producers, early in their year, we're pretty much telling a lot of the other producers, hey, it's about quality, step your game up. I get it. Okay, I know what they're implying, but my response to that would be if the genre is going to continue. I mean, because think about it, the reality. If we were to once we pass on, this genre is going to die with us. So when they start saying, step your game up, do this, do that, in return, I'm going to respond and say, okay, well, if that's the case, well, then maybe you guys need to step it up even more and maybe create a new image, a new title, a new face, cater to the new demographic generation that's coming up now. I know there's some young artists that are coming up now. So, I mean, from my perspective, I'm always going to love the Georges, the Cynthias, the TKAs, Johnny O's, Noels. They paved the way for us, and I'll love them for that. You know what I'm saying? But I think now, they need to share that baton and start working together and bringing a new image, new artist development, whether it be female, male, and just take it to a whole nother level. It's like everybody's kind of still going backwards, still using the same faces, the same artists, and it's not progressing. I mean, yeah, we can say, yeah, they're dropping beats, they're doing this, they're doing the edits, they're bringing back the 80s, they're doing this, they're doing that, but we're in a whole different generation now. It needs to change.
It's great that you come new artists, you got young kids coming up, but what is it with that Planet Rock beat that people just can't let go of it, man? I mean,
that drives me nuts, man, because I'm not going to mention the artist's name. He sent me 4 versions. The first 3 all had the Planet Rock sample. The last one was an original production. And I basically responded, you have a nice sound, you have a nice voice, the arrangements is nice. I didn't care for the first 3 versions because I'm not a fan of the Planet Rock. I think, but the last one was original. I can appreciate that one more. So if I'm gonna promote anything, it would be that version. But then again, it always comes back to that Planet Rock.
For me, it's getting harder and harder to find a new song to say, hey, guys, listen to this song during our hot pick of the week when everything is a Planet Rock beat. I'd rather not promote anything at this point.
Yeah, and it's like, you got some young people out there that are making some noise. You don't want to start producing it, and slapping a Planet Rock beat to the new current stuff. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It needs to go beyond that.
It drives me nuts. They have new releases with just Planet Rock beats, and I'm like, you are not inventing or reinventing the wheel. You're just going back to the well, and that's lazy. And I have taken a stance and said, for the most part, 95% of these songs are not ever going to make it on my show.
I feel you on that, brother. I mean, I can't argue with you on that. I mean, I'm just not a fan. I was never a fan of it, even when Tasmania used it on some of my stuff.
Did I take you by surprise? I woke up to realize I've been searching for an everlasting love. There's no time to hesitate. I can't take another day. Hoping that you feel the same about me, girl. Visions of you going through my mind. I never felt something so right about this night. I'm hoping this will turn something to me.
Yeah, I turned around and it was on there. I'm like, guys, come on, man. We've had these discussions before. Anything but the Planet Rock beat. Come on. And that was back then when it was more, it was used a lot more, but I just was never a fan of it, man. It's just not. And now it's just more jaded and played out more than ever. I look at it like this from a reality perspective. I mean, when I think about freestyle, to me, it's the meaning of it is it's love, spirituality, what you feel inside. It's all positive energy pertaining to love. I think we all need to, we're writing about it. We're writing about love, spirituality, in so many different angles. But yeah, there's so much hate for one another. You know what I'm saying? There's so many people bashing here, bashing there, bashing this and this and that. I think we just need to put our knives and forks underneath the table and somehow communicate it somehow and start working together. It's easier said than done. but I think it could be done. I mean, if we're singing about the positiveness of love and everything else, I think we all need to embrace one another and, help take it to that next level.
This is Freestyle Club with your hosts, the unknown admin, Rafael Reyes, and CPR, Jose Ortiz.
The group disbanded at a time when I think you guys were just starting to get noticed. What happened there?
After Don't Leave Me Now, if you listen to, the details to that song, that was basically, we spent so many years together and we finally created our identity sound that identified us as a group. And, the one guy, Bobby, fell in love and got married and decided he didn't want to do it. And he was the engineer, so he had all the equipment. So he sold everything and started his life. We couldn't bash him for that,
I can relate.
It was like the equivalent of him having the PlayStation 4 and all you had was a control. So when he took the console with him, you're like, so who am I going to play with?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I can relate because when I got my son's mother pregnant, it was time for me to put the DJ equipment away and get a real job. I sold my turntables, got a box of diapers, sold my speakers, got a stroller, sold my records, got a crib. That's how it was for me. So I could definitely relate.
I remember back in 1992, and I was DJing in a school function. People were turning on freestyle at the time. And I remember that, Don't Leave Me Now has the best break beat I've ever heard at that time. And I just kept on spinning it and spinning it and spinning it and just going back and forth with it. And then, I try to mix a little hip-hop with it, slow it down, and really try to blend the two worlds. But people were rejecting freestyle at that time in 1992. And for me, it was heartbreaking because that's all I ever had at that time. Right. I only had like 5 hip-hop records and the rest was just freestyle. And people just kept on coming up. Yo, we're going to play some hip-hop. You got Cypress Hill? Do you have this? Do you have that? And I'm like...
Public Enemy, yeah.
Like, no, man. Like, I got Full Effect, man. What are you talking about, As a beginner back in 92, being a DJ, my senior year in high school, I can say that I spun Don't Leave Me Now ad nauseum to the point where people wanted to kill me at these underground house parties because I just had to represent, and that beat just carried me.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I remember when that song was released, I think I never heard my song being played through my town all spring and summer. That's all you heard was boom, 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 boom. Y'all want to hear that beat, right? Boom. I was like, oh, damn, they're busting my stuff in the street. The only thing that we lacked and we started researching was editing. That was mastered from the guys in New York back in the day. You had the Latin Rascals who invented it, and there was Chep Nunez and all those guys. Those were master editors. That was the only element that we lacked, and that's something that was our next step, is learning the process of editing. And once we would have gotten to that, then we definitely would have had a strong foundation in Philadelphia, because we had a lot of people coming up to us and wanted us to produce their demos, but we weren't there yet. We were trying to break out with our stuff first, but eventually that was the plan, was to produce others and, establish ourselves as producers as well.
Who was your favorite group of all time when it comes to freestyle?
We used to go to a lot of shows. We used to see, we used to always go out together as a group. We used to go out to see Johnny O. We used to see Suave, Suave was the one that actually, because we used to talk to Suave's manager, and I forgot his name. I want to say his name is Jose. And he was the one that used to listen to our demo. So we used to see a lot of performances from Suave, with him and his dancers. And that's basically how we kind of started out. You know what I'm saying? I said, okay, if we're going to do it, let's do it like Suave. He comes out, he has his dancers and blah, blah, blah. They got the image going on and stuff like that. So he was kind of like our template. I want to say he wasn't our favorite artist, but when he threw a show back then, he kicked it. Him and his dancers, everything was in sync. I used to watch Lizette Melendez when she had the female dancers with her back in the early days. So, when we used to watch them, we're like, okay, we need to choreograph something similar to what they're doing to captivate the audience. So basically just by watching certain three group performances on stage was basically how we, were able to kind of study it and, just go about our business on stage. Try to create our own little thing.
Now, how did you begin your solo career? I know that one of the members got married, so that pretty much breaks up the group.
Once we broke off, my writing improved a lot because I was studying release after release. I was studying how they were writing the format. I was studying the lyrics on what they were writing about, and my writing started to improve. So I started, I created a notebook. I said, I'm going to keep writing, because at that point I had no direction. We, like I said before, we did submit some stuff to some New York labels at the time, but we were all rejected. So I wasn't going to submit anything on my own. So I figured, let me just continue to write and see what happens. And then I got a call from Sammy C, my brother, Sammy C. In case you guys don't know, Sammy C was part of Afekt Records, and he was part of the full Afekt family. We brought him in later after we met and stuff like that, and he did some recordings with us as well. But Sammy he had called me out of the blue. He said, hey, man, there's a local label out of Philly, and your name has come up a lot. I brought your name up to them, and they used to be with the DTU guys, and I said, oh, yeah, I remember those guys, blah, blah, all the local guys that, we all used to get together and do performances locally. So we all kind of knew each other. And then he said, they got a label together, man. Your name's come up, man. So you're interested, I'll drop your name in there. And if you don't mind, I'll give them your number so they can call you. So that's when I got a call from, I think it was Anthony Pons. One of those guys called me.
Anthony Ponzio.
Yeah, Anthony Pons. Yeah, he called. And he said, hey, man, I remember you from Full Afekt, man. I remember your sound. If you want to stop by the studio, is there anything that you have? And I said, yeah, I got some stuff. But prior to that, there was a moment there where, like I said, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. We all go through different transitions in life, and I knew I had the talent. I knew I had the voice, but I just didn't have the direction, So, I mean, that's when those were the times came about. It came through a point where, I was going through something. I was kind of at a loss, and, I was just in deep thought, just thinking about family, friends, and close people that were close to me at the time, and that's how I was able to create Those Were the Times. Because mostly people to this day ask me who I wrote the song about. It's about everybody and everybody that was in my life during that time.
I remember 1994. I remember listening to Those Were the Times, and that was my first year ever on FM radio. And I remember this song arguably being the greatest Tasmania release of all time. But at that time, we didn't know how brilliant and how much fire the song was going to take until we played it that first morning. Some of you may not be aware, but my show was CPR's Clubhouse on 103.5 FM in Holyoke, Massachusetts. I happened to be at a 10-watt radio station, but fortunate for us, 10 watts, yes. Fortunate for us, the antenna was on top of a mountain on the soldier's home. Because of that, it would actually carry the signal 30 minutes any direction. So if you were especially on the highway, you would have a clear signal. If you were part of the neighborhood, if you were in Holyoke, you would listen. And the first day that I played Those Were the Times, I played that song over and over again every hour on the hour from 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. And the song caught so much fire that it became a phenomenon here. And to this day, 2018, we get requests for that specific song because it touched people so much. It became a song that we didn't even want to play anymore because that's how much people requested it. That's how every week you would have someone trying to call in to dedicate it to their girlfriend that they broke up with or their boyfriend. It was just a phenomenon. And for me, when I went through heartbreak, that was the song that I went to, and that's the reason why it was being played every hour on the hour, because when I went to that breakup, I had it on repeat. It was so bad that DJ Alex Rivera called me at the radio station. He goes like, yo, you okay? And I'm like, no, man, I just broke up with my girl. And he came and he took over the show because all I did was put Those Were the Times on repeat, and after it would finish, it would start all over again. And I mean, it just played for the entire time until he got there. So that song means a lot to me, but I know it means a lot to New England, my area, because it became the anthem.
It's funny that you say that because before I even wrote it, all I remember was being back home in Jersey, walking. I remember it was like a Saturday morning, and I was just walking. You know, I said, I need to take a walk. I need to brainstorm here a little bit. And I remember saying a prayer, and I remember this prayer vividly. I remember saying, you know what? I remember saying, God, I said, I don't know what direction I have in this business, but I want to write something that everybody's going to remember me by. You know, put me on the stage alongside the ones that did it. You know what I'm saying? And it was funny because after that prayer and after my thought and, meditation, the lyrics just started coming to me naturally. Just boom, boom, boom. And that's how the song was born.
Yeah, it definitely did it because that song is not your typical freestyle song. It's more of a reflective and thought-provoking song, at least for me, and I'm sure for many out there. It's not that typical heartthrob type of song, right? Where it's like crying over you or anything like that, where it's
right.
just a sob story. It's more you can reflect of how someone took care of you, or someone nurtured you, or mentored you, or a loss of a loved one. It could be almost anything, but it definitely makes you think back.
When I finished writing it, I had a lot of friends of mine who were musicians, but they played mostly just rock music, 80s modern rock, 90s. They were rockers. And I remember hanging out with them one night, and I said, man, I got a song here. I'm going to sing it to you guys live. And I know you guys are not into this type of music, but I just want your opinion. And when I sang it to them, they were quiet for like 30 seconds. They were like, yo, Miguel, we're not into that style of music, but something about the way you sing that song touched me to tears. And I knew right then, I said, I got something. I got something here. I knew right then and there I had something special. And those were from rockers, bro.
I remember the lyrics like they were my own. After all that we've been through, I asked myself, was it worth every day of my life? Just that part right there. I'm done. I'm hooked. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was very captivating, for sure.
Yeah, man. And then the melody, the music, your unique vocals, I knew it was you. I was like, that's Miguel Reyes from Full Effect. And that's the guy from Full Effect. I knew it. And from that point on, man, it became a phenomenon. We were lucky that in 1995, we got to bring you here to Massachusetts various times, Connecticut and Massachusetts. And you were and probably still are a rock star here. If you ask anyone who's a Tasmania Records collector, if you ask anyone what is the greatest Tasmania record of all time, the answer will be Those Were the Times by Miguel Reyes, because that was the most played, that was the most overplayed song in the Tasmania catalog, especially in New England. And then Chicago took off.
The only thing I ever knew about Chicago was good times, man. I didn't know anything about Chicago, and when they told me things were happening in Chicago, now I was really scared because now I'm going I'm going west. So that was an experience I'll never forget as long as I live, bro.
And we owe that to Tim Spinning Schomer and his brilliance and his mixing and the way that he pushed music on B96 and how he made people ask, yo, who's that? who's that singing? You know?
Right.
And I thank Anthony Ponzio, and I thank the people at Hot Productions who, if I go into my vault, in my 12-inch vault, I have every single Tasmania release on 12-inch record.
Wow.
Because Hot Productions will send me duplicates of each. Every week I will have this thick envelope full of Tasmania records. Going back to Tasmania, when they were on Hot Productions and you caught fire, did you like it more when they were distributed by Hot Productions, or did you like it more when they were distributed by Metropolitan? Because I remember having a heartfelt conversation with you in regards to your album.
I thought I thought if we would have stayed with Hot, I think we would have been better off. But there was a conversation. They were trying to determine if they were going to go independent as Tasmania. That was in the process during the talks before they considered Metropolitan. I think we should have stayed with Hot, or they should have went independent. To me personally, I think it was a big mistake going to Metropolitan, only because Metropolitan already had their established artist, and we just came in behind the shadows, and it just seemed like everything just dropped once we hit to Metropolitan, and it was just, I was very disappointed.
So when you got to Metropolitan, I saw that the change had happened. They were promising you an album. You were fighting for this album. You were the most popular single artist on the roster, and you wanted this album, and everybody was pushing. I would send my playlist to them, and I would be asked, what's doing good for you? What's doing good for you? And I would tell them, Miguel Reyes Jr., this is the guy. He's been here so many times. And right behind you, I would say Sammy C. I remember having a conversation with you, and you were telling me, that Sammy C belonged on commercial radio. That is a miscarriage of justice that he doesn't have his own album. So not only were you fighting to get your album done, but you wanted a Sammy C one as well.
When Tasmania decided to split off, I was upset because of the fact that Tasmania established a sound of their own, and they were doing very well. And I thought if we would have stayed together longer as Tasmania, I think we could have created a lot more music and been better off. Because, at the time, it was kind of during a decline, Like New York, like I said before, New York had their style. The West Coast had their style. Miami had their style. And Philly was making some noise with their style. And it wasn't that it was better. It was just a little different. New York had their editing, a little darker, stronger beats, a little bit more detail. Where Tasmania had more musical. It was a little bit more musical in their sound. Not as hard. It could be hard in some parts depending on who the artist is, but they had a good sound. And that's what disappointed me the most when they let us all go. They were really coming to their own. And I think the mistake, the decline, and the whole mix-up was when they went to Metro.
I saw the releases for you on Metropolitan on 12-inch record, and you had Someday. They released that in 1995. And then it became like they put a bunch of songs together on 12-inch. They didn't add anything to them. They just put the version that they had on the compilation, and they put it on a 12-inch record. But there was like 4 of you on one 12-inch record. And I know they put Because of You out in 1996, and You're My Everything also later that year. How was your relationship with the folks at Metropolitan? Did you talk to anyone in Metropolitan?
There's this one lady, her name was Laura Harowitz, who used to work for Metropolitan. She was our voice for Metropolitan as far as what was going on. I never got any details on what their plans was, because my second release was Someday. Yes. And to me, till this day, Someday was, I think, the best song I ever wrote.
Someday we'll find the love we had and relive the memories. I'll stop the world, girl, just to be with you in my arms again. I'll wait for you no matter how long it takes. I will wait.
And I thought it was a nice follow-up to Those Were the Times. And I thought after being added on regular rotation in B96 in Chicago, which is another story, the song got added to major rotation. You would think once we went to Metropolitan that they would have jumped on the second single and would have kept pushing for a stronger promotion to try to keep the name and the vibe alive. But they never did that. Once Someday was released, they didn't do any additional promotion to the song that I know of, because it didn't get the same recognition as Those Were the Times. Nowhere near. I thought maybe it wasn't a better song, but it was a nice follow-up song. And there's a lot more in detail, because you think about it, a lot of people don't know. The song was added to B96, going back to Tim Schomer. Tim Schomer broke the record in Chicago, and it was added to Party Radio B96 on regular rotation, which was kind of weird, because I've heard stories from other people. I mean, I've spoken to Carlos Barrios and what he had to go through to break Lizette's record, and boom, and this and that. And here I am. I come in, I write this song, I go in the studio, boom. Within 2 hours, the song is done. They drop some samples, drop some melodies, bang. A couple months later, boom, it's added to B96. Through strong request alone, that song got added. There was no individual product of that song other than the vinyl and the volume 3. And that's what killed it from being added to other stations, because there was no promo of the one song. There was no CD single. There was no cassette singles at the time to support radio play and promotion for the one song. And so by the time the cassette singles came out, which was very limited, the song got dropped, hurt my chances going mainstream or Billboard, which would have been next if I would have got additional additions to the radio stations. Because think about it, I made a lot of noise out in your area in Springfield, Massachusetts. You guys broke me out there big time. And then I got broke big time out of Chicago. But I didn't make any noise in Philly or South Jersey or New York. And that's what it still bothers me till this day, because here I am traveling west, getting all this recognition. Song got added. I'm performing. I'm booked, blah, blah, blah. You guys pretty much ward me out there by your area. And you would think from there it would have worked its way into the New York area. But that goes back to Metropolitan. They didn't break the record in New York. They didn't break it at KTU. There was no DJ that took the initiative to actually break the record in Philly. But here's Tim Schomer, which I never met. He's playing the record, running it like you were running it, in all his mixes. And the lines, I think, just blew up to, I think they had to send an electrician out there and fix the lines out there. That's how much they were calling for the song requests out there in Chicago.
Yeah, Those Were the Times was the number one song in 1994 for every radio station that played freestyle in this area. I just look back and think back at that time and how much, our friendship grew, and how many times we booked you here, and how many times you were furniture at my radio show. I still have a picture of you and the Tasmania crew at 103.5, and it felt so good for me building my name, promoting you guys and promoting new music, and it just felt like more togetherness at the time, like this fun ride that everyone was taking together, because Sanaya was there, Sammy C was there, dancers. I mean, everybody just showed up, and it was a party. How much teeth did you have to pull to get your CD released?
Oh, wow. Well, going back to that, what happened was when Those Were the Times got dropped from rotation on B96, because it was being tested at other stations, but they didn't want to chance it because there was no product to support it of the one song. So once it got dropped, I think it was Jerry Salerno from Metropolitan decided he didn't want to put the album out. So one of the writers from DMA had reached out to me and wanted to write, wanted to do an article. And that came up. And I basically told him what happened, and he put it in the article. So
I remember that article. I still have it here.
Yeah, and that was the only reason why the album was released, because of that article. Because it was released. It was released, I want to say, April, May. Because I remember I performed at the Winter Music Conference, I want to say it was in July. So between spring and summer, that's when that article was released. And I remember hearing from somebody from Metropolitan saying that Jerry Salerno was mad at the writer and basically told him, I want to thank you because now I have to put out Miguel Reyes' album because of that article. So the intentions were for him not to put out the album. So because of that article, that's what made the album happen.
Now, there was a reason why you titled the album May and Everything After. Would you like to share that with us?
Oh yeah, for sure. May was a tough month, man. I lost a very good friend of mine that I went, my childhood friend. He was killed by a drunk driver. He was coming from a wedding. Him and two other friends of mine that were in the car also passed away. I had a friend of mine I used to work for at the time. I used to work for this construction company, and his uncle died in the line of duty like 2 months after I lost my buddy. And then I lost my godmother, who was like my buddy. I used to always hang out at my godmother's house. I used to skip school, and I used to hang out at my godmother's house. She passed away also that same year and same month. So, I lost a lot of close people in the month of May, and that was the reason for that title for that album.
Were you ever paid? Did they ever give you a royalty check?
I did get some surprising royalty checks for the rotation of the times. I do have, that's one thing I make sure I do have a percentage of the publishing when we did all the contracts and stuff. So, I mean, it wasn't a big payout wasn't a big payout, but it was something.
I would dare say it's a lot than what a lot of the new school artists were getting, because we hear the horror stories about them not even getting paid, but going bankrupt trying to maintain their career. So, good for you. And people should be contacting you and figuring out how they should be doing their contracts going forward.
I still fall in that same category because there was a point where when I saw the potential on how far this thing could go, that's when I lost sight of who I was. As a singer-songwriter, my job is to work my craft, keep writing, keep studying, try to improve. At the time I had management, but it wasn't strong management. So a lot of the fundings came straight out of my pocket. So when I realized that Metropolitan wasn't promoting me, I didn't stop there. I was basically, I lost a lot of money. I almost went bankrupt. I was buying my own vinyl off the shelf. Wow. Every time I saw my product, I would buy it off the shelf because I was packaging it to the DJs, to keep my name out there.
I remember that.
So yeah, I did lose a lot of money, and I kind of lost myself there in the mix because, I'm an artist. I shouldn't have to deal trying to be an artist and try to run the business. All the phone calls, all the money, all the gas, all came out of pocket. And yeah, that pretty much, from that point on, that's when I went on hiatus for a while. I was kind of burned out from it because I lost a lot. But I did see money from performances, you know what I'm saying? So I was fortunate with that, you know what I'm saying? So I can't say that it was all, that I didn't make anything, I did make some money from performances.
A couple of things stuck out in our conversation. One of them being that you said you was shopping around to different labels, and one of those labels was Micmac Records, right? So to me, Micmac also lost out on Mark Anthony. So that's strike two right there. What's going on with this Mick? What's going on, dude? You lose out Mark Anthony, big one, but also Miguel Reyes, dude. That's not that's not good. Fire your AR guy. Immediately.
Yeah. Well, hey, but we were able to, we were able to, go around the outside and make some noise.
They didn't take Mark Anthony, they didn't take Miguel Reyes, but they took Mikey.
Menudo, right?
And they took a bad Menudo. Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, and also, it's funny we mentioned Tim because we're going to talk about Tim in a little bit and how he is connected to your current song. But it's kind of crazy. You're a Philly artist. I'm a New York kid, but I had to hear your song first from Tim Spin and Shomer.
Yeah, it's weird till this day. It's weird, because everything that was happening for me here in Chicago, I wanted it back home. And until this day, I never got a record release party. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get no record release party. Me and Sammy still joke about that to this day. Man, we're the only artists that made all this noise. We never got a record release party. Ain't that some, whatever. But
Savvy C doesn't understand how big he was when he first came to this area. He doesn't understand that we were playing In Your Eyes for years before we played Fate of Destiny or before we played any of his Tasmania material. It was kind of ironic that you both performed together on the same night for us here in Massachusetts. You both got roaring ovations, and you guys couldn't believe it at the end of the night. I remember these things vividly because I wasn't allowed in the club at that time, and I was really young, but because of Jesus the Juice Vasquez and him allowing me to be mentored by him, I was just running around happy like a kid who was following his.
You were having fun.
Man, it was awesome, and I got to see Sammy C perform. I got to see Miguel perform on the same night, and I woke up the next day and I felt so accomplished that I was part of making these things happen. They're always fond memories, but Sammy C doesn't understand how much he meant to this area, and how when you both came together, you were both seen as these great superstars. And I'm telling you right now, if the scene would have stayed the same here in New England, you guys will still be those superstars.
I love performing along Sammy. We've been friends for a long time. I love him like a brother, just like I love you guys as well. You know what I'm saying? But Sammy's real good people, man. Real good people. We always bug out. We just did a show back in August in Austin, Texas. So we had a good time out there as well.
I saw the flyer, and the flyer had every single person that was at 103.5 in that picture that I have of you guys in the studio. So everybody that was on that flyer was in my studio at the same time and sharing the moment years back.
I got some of those pictures. I gotta dig into them and post them.
You're my everything, my love. What more could I ask for? You gave it me when I had nothing at all. Hey, yeah, you're my everything, my love.
Earlier, we talked about how the group got back together to do a show. Are we going to see any more? Because I know people want to know. They're going to be like, how come you didn't ask that question? You didn't ask that question. The most important question you didn't ask. Are they coming back? Are they doing more shows?
Well, yeah, I love to do shows as Full Effect. You know what I'm saying? Because, Rob, he's a good vocalist, and we harmonize, and we're always in sync. And it was, not to change the subject, but I was going back to Austin, Texas. I didn't know what to expect when I was out there. But the audience came up to me and said, yo, you're going to perform the Full Effect stuff, right? And my jaws dropped. I'm like, wait a minute. You guys remember the days. You guys know Don't Leave Me Now and Out of My Mind. They were like, you know what, man? You're about 30 years late coming here. Wow. We've been waiting for you for all these years to perform those songs. And you're going to perform them tonight, right? And luckily, I had them in my mix and my set because I didn't know. I didn't know what to expect. But I've been wanting, I think... See, it's different because, we have to get booked together. So the price is a little bit more. Me, myself, I'm pretty reasonable when I do shows. But I think people are asking more for the Full Effect. So, I told my boy Rob, I said, hey, man, if we get a call, would you come out? He goes, yeah, I'll come out. If the price is reasonable and it's good, I'll bring my music, the set, we go on stage together.
I have to also commend you because one of my first purchases ever on iTunes was Full Effect. When the digital media craze first started, Full Effect was one of the first freestyle songs ever available on iTunes. It was what Glenn Gutierrez had said that inspired many to put their music into the iTunes spectrum of things. And the only ones that actually listened were you guys, because nobody wanted to put their freestyle songs on iTunes, but you guys did. And so I had all the classified stuff on iTunes, but my first purchase on iTunes was the Full Effect single for Don't Leave Me Now and Out of My Mind. So I still have them here. And
the little EP, yeah.
And you guys put that out there. So it was one of the first things I ever purchased. I think the first ever purchase when it came to freestyle on iTunes. So I got to commend you guys for having that foresight,
I still get those CD Baby checks, and most of the downloads are from the Full Effect stuff. So that tells me right there that there's still an audience that looks for it. You know what I'm saying? If they remember something that was good, they're going to look for it. That's why it's like, most people say, well, what do you think about these artists putting out all this freestyle? I'm like, you know what? To me, it's a beautiful thing because, I might not be promoting myself as much anymore, but when people go on iTunes or go look for music and they say they find the latest song from George Lamont, everything else is going to pop up, that's available. So that listener could be like, oh, I didn't know Miguel came out with something new. Oh, damn, let me check it out. Let me peep it. Oh, I might as well just buy this too. So there's always, I try to look at the positive side of every angle. Most people think, oh, man, they're flooding the market. They're doing this, they're doing that. I said, no, there's some headliners out there that are still making some noise. And when people go look for them, everything else comes up as well.
I guess my frustration as a DJ is the fact that, you know, you want to promote the best and you're used to and you're accustomed to the best. So you want to hear more like those were the times. You want to hear more phenomenons. You want to hear these songs that transcend time. Because right now, here we are, all these years later, those were the times was released in 1994. So 24 years later, I can play that song and people be like, yo, I love that song. So that's what I want from the people that are releasing new music now. That 24 years from now, I play it and they're not going to be like, yo, there goes that stupid song with the Planet Rock beat. No, here's that hit from 2018 that was released and was our anthem. And that's what we look for every day, you know, for people to put out music like that.
Yeah. And I know exactly what you mean, because I'm the ultimate music junkie, man. If it doesn't move me, I'm not going to buy it, because I buy music every month. I mean, I listen to all types of music, and it has to have something, it can't, I mean, there's songs that are good, good vocals, good music, but it might not move me, but it's still a good quality song. It has to be, like you said, it's got to be something that's got to touch me from some type of angle. Like, oh, wow, I like that. I'm going to buy that. Like, I'll give you an example. When I first heard Lost from Audie Medina. You know who I thought that was when I first heard the vocals? I thought that was Rihanna. I said, Rihanna got a freestyle track. I'm like, oh, damn, I'm listening to that. And I flipped. I was like, man, and I was confused. I'm like, well, who remixed that? Who did that? And then I go look for the song on YouTube, and it's like, oh, it's somebody new. But I was captivated. I'm like, I got to buy that song. It's something about it. Something about it drew my attention. Boom. And I supported it. I said, I like that. I like that. That's different. Something about that track. I bought it right away, bro.
When you talked about earlier in the podcast, somebody fresh, somebody new, that new sound, the first person that came to my mind is 19-year-old Audie Medina. Because she is the future if she wants to be in this music. If we don't scare her away. If we nurture her the way that we should, because she's amazing. Right. If you hear her new song, No More, it's a song within a song within a song, and it's R&B in a freestyle song, but it's also pop in a freestyle song, and it's also modern in a freestyle song. And I want more Audie Medinas. I need more Audie Medinas.
Exactly. You hit it right on the head. Yeah, she was one of the ones. Yeah, lucky I brought her up because she was one of the ones I wanted to bring up as far as the up and coming generation. She is definitely one that sets the example. But she has a style, she has identity, and her voice and stuff like that. And if I were to give a lot of these young kids advice that want to continue with the genre or want to pursue it, I think they need to take it to another level. Don't just be a writer and a good singer. Be musically inclined. Learn an instrument. Learn everything about music. Because it's like if I listen to just freestyle all the time, freestyle, everything that I would ever write will sound exactly freestyle. Same pattern, same everything. See, I listen to so many different types of music. I love singer-songwriters. I'm inspired by different styles, and that's what I study all the time. I try to study to make not to improve my sound, but to try to make it. It's all about simplicity. If you can make it simple, catchy, and interesting, then boom, you hit it. And it's pretty difficult to do. A lot of people try and they do too much, but I think if you just keep it simple, interesting, and you're going to hit it all the time. But it's something it has to come, from within.
Speaking of being inspired, tell me about When You Were Born is a song that you wrote for your child. How did you come about the concept?
Well, that was during the time when I was on hiatus. I was, newly married to my wife, and we had our first child, and she was a preemie. She almost didn't make it. So during that process, it was a different, timeline in my life. I was still writing. I wasn't in the spotlight. I wasn't doing anything, but I was still writing. So that was a different chapter in my life. Once she pulled through, and when you have kids in your life, to me that's a spiritual thing. Watching them grow, seeing them do things, and kind of reminds me when I was growing up. So I started seeing things more spiritually. So I was inspired by that. That was what I was going through at the time. And, I just wanted to write something about my kids. And they're actually in the song in the beginning, giggling.
Yes.
So that was my first official solo project release. And I was able to reach out to Carlos Barrios. He did a little mix for me on there. He did a radio mix for me on the same single. And you know what? The song did very well. I mean, I didn't really promote it, but I put it up for sale. I did very little marketing on it. And, dude, I'm still cashing out on that song. I made my money back on it. It was my first official project, put out the money, studio time, and also hooked up with Rob. We did a little full effect version on the song. And the song did pretty well. But that was my inspiration for it. I was, had my 2 children, and boom. And that's what inspired me to write it.
Let's go back to 1996. Tim Spinning Shomer, Freestyle Boom.
Okay.
The greatest mixtape of all time. What do you think, Ralph?
Tim Spinning Shomer, greatest freestyle DJ that ever lived, period. I'm sorry. It has to be said, right?
It does, but
Yep.
but my thing was Freestyle Boom, the compilation, the mixtape, the mix CD, the greatest mix CD of all time. I can tell you what song is coming up next. I could play that mix, and I can tell you every song that comes after. I can sing the entire mix. Not only that, but he tells a story every time he puts a mix together. That's amazing in itself. But there's a song in that mix from 1996, and that is Like the First Time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Definitely.
And it was the first time I ever heard it, and it was the last time I ever heard it. And I always wanted that song. It took 21 years. What happened? Tell us the story of this song, Like the First Time.
Like the First Time was the very last song that I wrote before Tasmania Let Us Go. And when I wrote it for a female artist. I was gonna test it with Stephanie Bennett or Deneen or Samantha, one of those 3. I was gonna have them sing it to see which one gave me the best sounds. But since we all broke up, we all went our separate ways. It never got to be. So I was still doing a lot of shows in Chicago. So, I got real close with Tim, and Tim had called me one day. He said, "Hey man, me and JJ Flores, we're putting together a label. I'm putting out a mix CD. It's going to be featured on, our own little label, Throb Records, blah, blah, blah." He goes, JJ wants to know if you're willing to drop a track. I said, do you have anything current? I said, well, yeah, I just wrote this song for a female artist, but, I can take it on and put it out myself. Let's do it. So came to Chicago, met up with JJ Flores. He dropped the keyboards, dropped the beats, and we featured the song. We only did... we recorded like 3/4 of the song because Tim only wanted to feature like a 2-minute mix of the song, just enough to, mix into his set, to CD. Now, JJ had other intentions. JJ wanted to shop it around to see if it was worth putting out a full version with various mixes. And I think that year he went to the Winter Music Conference. But that was kind of during the decline of freestyle, because after that, Tasmania broke up and there wasn't really much of anything really being done at the time. I guess he didn't get the responses that he wanted, so it just became a dead-end project. So it was only just that 2-minute mix. And, I think like a couple years later, I was able to get a little piece of the acapella and the music, just collecting dust in my digital file. So it just never came to be, but for many, many years, like yourself and many other DJs and fans have asked me, yo, man, where's the other half of that song? That was a kick-ass track, man. What is up? You know, and I just never got around to it. And I tried at one point by using the same musical elements, but it just didn't work out. So it just remained a 2-minute mix. That was it.
And now how did it become a full release now 21 years later in 2018?
I had someone produce it, but I wasn't satisfied with how it was done. So I was going to just not even mess with it anymore. And then I was doing a recording session with Carlos Mojica. I was dropping some lyrics, and I had the song on a CD because I was going to use some musical arrangements. I was going to sample some of the beats from the old stuff, and I was going to try something new. And Carlos Mojica was a fan of the song. He goes, dude, I'm a fan of the song. He goes, are you ever going to release this, man? I'm like, well, I had a producer, but wasn't too satisfied with it. He's like, then he asked me, he goes, do you know Sal Medina? I said, yeah, I know Sal. I've met up with him a couple times. He's like, look, man, he's looking to get his name out there, you know, and I think give him the project. You know, he does pretty good work. So he called me and we started talking. I said, hey, man, I've been sitting on a song for many, many years. So, you know, you want to take a crack at it? You know, if you think you can make it, give it some justice. You know, what are your intentions? He's like, well, I don't really want to do what everybody else is doing, you know, with all the crazy stuff. And I said, well, then be creative, be yourself. I said, I'll give you the stems and do your thing. So he sent me the demo. I was like, whoa. I was kind of stunned because, you know, I'm so used to listening to the original. So I had to just step back a little bit and like, okay, still the same song. It's still in the same pitch. You know, it's just a extended version. It's not that hard hitting freestyle everybody's looking for. It's kind of a happy springtime, spring love, happy song. So I was like, I called him. I said, hey, man, I like what you did, man. I really did. I said, I was pretty impressed. I said, listen, man, I'll tell you what. Well, you know, you want to take charge of the song? You know, I said, go ahead. Just do your thing, man. Do your thing. You want to market it? Go ahead. That's where we're at.
Sal Madman Medina. I've been hearing of him for a long time. He has sent me a lot of projects, and and I've always ignored them. And there was a reason for that. I didn't think that the stuff that he had sent me was good enough for me to play. And then he sent me Feels Like the First Time, and he totally changed my mind. I was so taken back by the simplistic but yet complex mix that he did for the song that I completely fell in love with it all over again. I completely forgot the original version and just focused on listening to the radio and extended versions of like the first time, the one that he produced. And so I want to compliment him for doing the song justice. I think that many of the people that have listened to the song have really liked it. I can ask the Unknown Admin what he feels right now on the song. I'm sure that he's heard it because it was his pick hit last week.
That's why I picked it, because one, it didn't have a Planet Rock beat. I love the elements in the track. I was feeling it. I said, dude, I got to make this pick of the week, because compared to everything else there, it's just head and shoulders above everything else that's coming out new right now.
In a room full of Planet Rock beats, it is really nice to be Sal Madman Medina. So thank you is what I want to say.
Because honestly, he could have just did the easy thing and just made a Planet Rock beat that people are like, oh, that's fire. Because that's all you hear, right? It doesn't matter what the lyrics are. Doesn't matter what the voice sounds like. As soon as people hear that boom, boom, and they're like, oh, it's fire. It's fire. I'm like, what, dude? You haven't even heard the words yet. You haven't heard the vocals.
Yeah.
And you're already screaming that it's fire? Come on.
No.
Eso, bro.
You gotta get fired. You gotta get fired from producing.
Oh.
But
yeah, man.
Yeah, so-
Sal, you
yeah,
do your
so
thing, man. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, big shout outs to Sal, man. So yeah, we definitely. I said, hey, man. I mean, so far I'm hearing nothing but positive vibes. In the beginning, I was kind of skeptical because, like I said, I still had the original in my mind for so long, So when he did, I was like, wow. And I had to hear it several times in order for it to sink in. And I'm like, okay. We were kind of worried there because we didn't know how it was going to do compared to what's out there right now. You know what I'm saying? I said, well, hey, man, just give it a shot. Just give it a shot. I mean, it's your thing. He was excited. And, and I said, man, just go out there and enjoy it. Do your thing, bro. I said, well, we'll make it happen little by little. It's not going to happen overnight, but, this will probably get you some work in the future for sure. As a producer, people are going to, pay you some attention and, we'll probably maybe work on something else later on.
I think
now, man, it's just...
I think that you may have pushed him in the right direction with the song, and we're going to continue playing it, and hopefully it will catch on just like Those Were the Times, or, just catch on, period, to the point where people are going to be continuing to support it and purchase it and spend the 99 cents or the $2 or whatever it costs to get the song to their digital libraries. And I hope too that you get into the vinyl craze and produce some vinyl, because I guess that's the it thing to do now, Miguel.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more vinyl. It's something I have to look into in the future. I got to keep my, I can only budget around for so many tracks, man. Stuff gets expensive, bro. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, it's the love of music, man. When I get an itch for it and I get itchy palms, I'll drop something.
So what's next for Miguel Reyes? Are we going to hear a follow-up?
What I've wanted to do for the longest time, and I'm trying to debate, maybe you guys can help me out, help make a decision. Should I do an EP or do another album?
I say do an album, but just do single releases before releasing the album, 1 or 2 songs.
So release 1 or 2 songs before a full-length album. Okay, I kind of thought about that as well. So, I mean, I got some stuff in the works.
What do you think, Jose?
I think that the more Miguel Reyes Jr. that we get in 2018, the better. The more different sounds that we get. If you guys are pioneers in the Philadelphia sound, you could help reinvigorate it. I know that Brad Warsaw is a good producer that will make a fine addition to assisting you. I know that Sal Medina, working with you as well, will produce some new sounds, and that's what I'm hoping. Someone that's seasoned like you, that can write, that can sing, and knows what they want, to connect with producers that can produce and then put out good quality stuff and have a nice plan for the future. So I say go for broke. I say put out an EP, put out an album, put them out both, because you're Miguel Reyes Jr., who's not going to want to support you.
I would have one stipulation, though, Miguel.
Yeah.
Don't wait too long, because Sammy Zone took 10 years to do his Running Redux, right? You broke that record with the 21 years on this song. You got the record, man. You don't have to hold out anymore. Go. Just go. Produce. Bring it out. Spit it out. Drop them.
Yeah. Now, Brad, is Brad an independent producer, or is he affiliated with a label of his own, or is he contracted?
Rock Solid Entertainment. He does his own stuff, and he's the one that produces Audi Medina. I could see a collaboration between you and Audi Medina. You could write for her. She could write for you. Her father's a writer. I mean, I have so many ideas in my head right now. I'm spinning, because I like good, talented people to get together and produce good, talented music, as you guys should. So Rock Solid Entertainment, he's been up and coming for a while, and he's arrived with Audi Medina.
Oh no, I've heard. I've heard his stuff.
3 in a row. Just like boom, boom, boom. Lost, No More, and Red Stripes. Okay, so the title of the song is called Red Stripes. That's one of the songs from Audi Medina. And I'm like, and please excuse my French, why the fuck would you name a song Red Stripes? And then I listened to it and I'm like, what fucking brilliance, you know? And I have to swear because I want to emphasize the brilliance of naming something that is not a typical freestyle title. You know what I mean? It's called Red Stripes.
Right.
And then you listen to it and you're like, holy shit, you know, this is awesome. So I could recommend as many people as you need me to, as long as you get the product done. I got Jay Allums too. Jay Allums is a great producer. So, you know, take a pic, give me a call. You know, I'll point you in the right direction. You know, people owe me favors too. So
I got you.
You know what I mean?
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. Because I'm trying to, I'm brainstorming right now. I mean, I got songs deep in my back pocket, man, that hopefully, you know, before I'm in my moment of truth, I'm able to at least release at least half of them or some of, you know, a majority of them.
This is the Freestyle Club. Pick hit of the week.
Since we're talking about, you know, up and coming artists, it made me think about one that I heard 9-10 years ago, and that's Sammy C's daughter, Sophia Elise, with Heaven Help Me.
The day you left me, you took a part of me. And no one in this world could bring it back. And now I'm breathing. Help me make it through the night. Help me make it feel alright.
Miguel, do you have a song that you would like to recommend to our audience for a pick hit of the week?
One of my all-time favorite songs, Voices in Your Head by Paris by Air.
Well, my pick of the week, I'm going to go with a song that was released in 2018. It's been my favorite remake. It's Rolando Montalvo's The Promise. I'm not sure if you've gotten a chance to listen to this song, but he goes word for word and sounds just like the artist that originally did the song. So my pick of the week is going to be Rolando Montalvo and The Promise.
Well, sorry, but I'm just thinking of the right words to say. I know they don't sound the way I planned them to be. But if you wait around the while, I'll make you for free. I promise.
Before we go on to our final segment, there's one little tidbit that I dug up on Miguel Reyes, and I have to ask, man. In '95, he was nominated as the hottest male vocalist on DMA magazine. Who did you lose to? Because there is no one more sexier than a Reyes. This was fixed, bro.
Oh, oh snap!
Am I right, dude? I mean, there's no one hotter than us, bro.
I'm falling in love. I'm falling in love.
Do you have a place where people can request you? Is there a Miguel Reyes page?
They can go to my fan page, MRJ Freedom Quest, and that should take them right to my my fan page.
Until next time.
Peace, love, and freestyle.